Alright guys, welcome back to another video, and in this video the only thing that I'm going to be doing is I want to show you guys how to properly organize your project into different layers, because if you don't, then trust me, everything is going to be very confusing and complicated as you keep adding more stuff. So what I want to do first is separate this background layer from the layer where we're going to be adding our other stuff. Now the reason I want to do this is because if you think about it, our game is going to have this one background that's going to stay the same no matter what. It's also going to have a bunch of other stuff such as our player, the enemy, the bullets. All of that stuff is going to be moving around and interacting with each other. So it's good to separate these in different layers so you don't accidentally, you aren't accidentally able to shoot your background layer and blow it up and end the game or something stupid like that. So if you go over to your layers panel, which is right next to your projects panel right here, you can see that we have one layer so far. Now this is of course the background layer. So what I want to do is actually rename this. So if you select it, you can click on this little, I don't know if it's a pen or a pencil, but it says rename layer, and just rename this to background. So it's always good to rename your layers something other than layer 0, layer 1, layer 2, and this is just so, well, obviously, it's less confusing. You guys, know the benefits of renaming layers, don't have to explain it. And another thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and right now make a new layer. Now, in order to make a new layer, just click this little plus icon, and that adds another layer on top of the background layer. So pretty much anything that we add to this layer is going to appear on top of this instead of behind it, because if we put it behind it, we wouldn't be able to see any of the players or enemies and stuff like that. So again, make sure that layer 0 is on top of the background layer, and I actually want to rename this one too. So make sure it's selected, rename this one to main, and hit enter. Again, not the state, just the word. And well, there's a state in America called Maine, in case anyone didn't know that. Most of you guys did. But anyways, the next point is this. So main, as I said, this is going to be the layer where everything is moving around. Our players, our enemies, our bullets, they're all going to be interacting with each other. This background layer, however, we don't ever want to touch again. This is perfect right now as is. So in order to ensure that we never accidentally edit this layer, we can go ahead and can click this little lock icon next to it. Now as you can see, it goes from a lock that was open to a lock that's closed. This basically means that this layer is now uneditable. You can't accidentally click it, and actually if you try to select it now, you can't select it. Sorry Haas, but that's what we want. So now, since we can't select that, make sure you have your main layer selected, and we're going to be working on this layer for the continuation of these tutorials. So it's also very important to make sure you have it selected, because it's whenever you have a layer selected, it's called the active layer, and any objects you add to your game are going to be added on the active layer, as you're going to see in a little bit. So now on the layout, what we can do is we can double click to insert a new object. Now the first thing that I want to insert is just a mouse object. So if we scroll down, we can see that it has a couple different forms of input. Now input is just the way that the user can tell the game how to do something. So you can use a gamepad such as like a Nintendo controller, Xbox, PlayStation. You can use your keyboard and mouse, you know what those are. And this touch is actually for like iPods and iPads and Android phones, touch like that. So the first thing I want to do, since we're just working with our computer, is add a mouse object. So just select that and hit insert. Now basically our game can take input from the mouse. And also another thing I want to do is add keyboard input. So again, double click this, scroll down to input, select keyboard, and hit insert. So right now what we just told this game is, okay, you're going to be getting information from the mouse and also from the keyboard, so just be ready for that whenever we move on. And another thing I want to point out is, unlike before, whenever we added the texture and we had to give it a position like 0, 0 and give it a size, We don't need to do that whenever we insert a mouse and keyboard object because these aren't physical objects. You don't place them in a physical location like you would a character or a block or a coin. You would just, you're pretty much just telling the game that is what kind of input you're accepting. So just remember that there are different types of objects, and that's what objects we just use. So now that our game knows that it's going to be accepting input from the mouse and also again from the keyboard, let's go ahead and start adding all that cool stuff. Those characters, those enemies, those bullets, explosions, all that stuff we downloaded. And that stuff is called sprites. And I'm going to be talking to you guys about what a sprite is. It's not the soda. And also why we need them in the next tutorial. So now that our game is ready to accept input, I will see you guys next time.